in December, water from the swale and in the low spots here in the backyard started flooding my downhill neighbor's yard, causing him to then have to dig some emergency ditches, which I'll show you in a second. So what I'd like to see in the project, first we have to deal with oncoming water that comes from my uphill neighbor's property. And so I think it makes sense to dig basically by the shed here, a type of gravel drain that would lead back into the swale area. More or less where this one is, I guess we could come in a little bit more because I'd like to leave enough room for a potential fence in the future. So if we need to move the shed over a little bit, we can extend the gravel kind of base there as well, just to make sure that we have a big enough drain to divert enough water that comes over from my uphill neighbor's property. There's also a few low spots here by the shed that need to get filled in as well. So that's the first step. As we go towards, so you can kind of see the water coming from the uphill neighbor's property. So then as we go back here, step 2 of the project would be to fill in this huge kind of moat and turn it into a French drain, connecting from the gravel drain. Then the pipes would come here. We'd need a large enough pipe to kind of future-proof a little bit. I would also, if possible, like to include a T or Y connector here so that if my uphill neighbor wants, he can connect to it. And if he doesn't, then we can just put a cap on it and leave it as is. So the next step, put the pipe in here all the way across this back swale, and then fill it in with whatever you do with drainage rocks up to the top. Maybe add some topsoil if we want to do some grass. Not sure what would be most cost effective and look the nicest, but a couple options. And then I'm not sure exactly how it's going to blend in with the dirt here at the woods, if there'll be like a little V here. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but this other side is slightly up above where my property ends here. But also, so basically the French drain would continue all the way down to the fence here, and I would also like my downhill neighbor here to be able to connect to it for his drainage as well. So, you know, basically mine would stop here, but he may want to continue it down further. This trench runs all the way down to a small river which empties out to a public utility. So I think that's it for this back swale. Step 3 then, the third part of this project, would be the grading issues that I'm dealing with. So as you can see from the previous pictures, the water never quite made its way to the swale. The yard was graded down, 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 and then it kind of flattens out here, and in some spots even goes uphill a little bit. So in order to deal with that, I had to dig a series of just emergency trenches to drain this part of the yard. But this was all very wet. So a couple of ways of doing it, I guess. We could skim off the top just to make a downward angle here, or adds enough soil to build this area up a little bit. If we're adding soil, I don't know how much. I know you could pay for tons of soil and not get much of a grade difference. If we are skimming, then the soil is underneath it pretty rocky. There's a lot of shale and rock, so I don't know if there's a way to do it that you add enough topsoil to be able to grow grass over it or not. So that's just something to consider as well, whether to skim or to add soil. Or maybe there's another option where just a series of French drains here connecting to T connectors into the main line. I don't know. So looking for opinions on that. Also, previously, tons of water made its way all the way across the yard and was flooding also underneath my neighbor's fence here. So I don't know if there's a way to make it, I tried to build it up so that water couldn't get there. But obviously this will need to be filled in the future. I don't know if there's a way to make it so this is built up slightly to encourage the water to go back down into the swale and not underneath his fence instead. Okay, so if we can do something with that, that would be good as well. So I'm also looking to have these trenches then filled in. These were just temporary to deal with the problems of the emergency water. I have tons of footprints because it was like a lake, as you can see in the other videos. If you take a look at them, it was just a mess. So if everything's graded properly and we have the French drains installed, then hopefully that won't be an issue anymore.